right, guys, let's get started on your last notes for the year. Yay! Until January. So exciting. You're almost halfway through geometry. Okay, so these are the 30, 60, 90 triangles because they have a 30 degrees angle, a 60 degrees angle, and then a 90 degrees angle. So I want you for a second, look at these three triangles, and I want you to try and find a pattern with your group. So look at these with your group, see if you notice any patterns, and then I'll ask people what they notice in a minute. Okay, let's talk about it. Somebody tell me what you noticed.
On the first two columns, it's like 5 times 2 is 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the last.
Yeah, okay, so that's a good observation. So you're saying that you notice that 5 times 2 gets to the hypotenuse. So the shortest side of the triangle times 2 gets to the hypotenuse. And actually, same thing on this one too, because root 5 times 2 is just 2 root 5. So same thing, yeah. So that's definitely part of the pattern, is that the hypotenuse is double whatever the shortest side is. Anybody notice the other part of the pattern? How about you guys at table 2? You guys were having some good conversations. What do you guys think? What about the relationship between the left side and the bottom?
Like this right here?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. What about it?
It's the same. Like the leg right here and this here.
Okay, so you're using the number on the leg, and then you're multiplying by
3.
root 3. Yeah, so you take whatever's on your short leg, multiply by root 3. And same thing, even on the triangle on the right, we take whatever's on our short leg and multiply by root 3, because root 5 times root 3 is just root 15. Okay, so the generalized rule for this is whatever is across from 30 in our triangle, aka the short leg, is your x. So the shortest side of the triangle is across from 30, and that's from our last unit too, right? Is that the smallest angle is across from the smallest side. So this is going to be our smallest side across from our smallest angle, 30. So that's x. Your hypotenuse is double that. So whatever's across from your right angle is double your short leg. And then the bottom side we call the long leg. So this side is called the long leg, and he is going to be x times the square root of 3. So this is the x root 3, 2x pattern. And by the way, if in your calculator, if you type in the square root of 3, what do you get? Like, what decimal do you get? Yeah, about 1.7. So square root of 3 is about 1.7, which is bigger than 1 and less than 2, right? So that's why the root 3 is across from the 60-degree angle, because 60 degrees is our middle angle. It's between 30 and 60, right? It's not the biggest, not the smallest. And then 1.7 is between 1 and 2, so it's not our shortest leg, and then it's not the hypotenuse, which has the 2 on it. So that can help you maybe remember just a little bit where the different things go. But let's look at some examples. So, for example, for the triangle on the bottom left, the 3 is on the x side because the x is always what's across from 30. We know that the hypotenuse is always 2x, so 2 times 3, or 6. And then across from 60 is always x times root 3. And we already know x is 3, so that's just 3 root 3. And then for the triangle on the right side, the number that we're given is the 14, and that's on the hypotenuse, which is the 2x side. So 14 is equal to 2x. So if we solve that baby equation, we can divide by 2 on both sides and get x would be equal to 7. So this side would be 7 because x is always across from 30 degrees. And then across from 60 is always x times the square root of 3. And we already found that x is 7. So I'm going to plug in 7 for x. So 7 times the square root of 3. All right, any questions so far? Okie dokie, let's look at some examples. I'm just going to rewrite the pattern up here so you can see it on the back side of your notes since you don't have it memorized yet. So your short leg is the x side across from 30 degrees. The long leg is the x root 3. That's across from 60 degrees. And the hypotenuse is the 2x side across from 90 degrees. All right, so here we go. So for this side, let's just go ahead and label the sides first. So across from 90, that's always going to be our 2x side. Across from 60, that's going to be our x root 3 side. So that means that this other missing angle is 30. So across from 30 is going to be the x side. So the goal is to solve for x, and then once we solve for x, we're just going to plug in. So 8 is equal to 2x because 8 was on the 2x side. Divide by 2 on both sides to get that x is 4. And so now we can just plug in because we know that 4 is equal to x. So that means that the short leg is 4. And I can also plug in a 4 for the x on the top leg, or the long leg, so 4 root 3. So my short leg was 4, long leg 4 root 3, hypotenuse 8. Okay, so in number 2, if I'm just labeling the sides of my triangle first, the hypotenuse is the 2x side. The short leg across from 30 is my x side. Across from 60 is my x root 3 side. So since I have the number that's given to me is on the x root 3 side, I'm going to say 5 root 3 is equal to x root 3. Because that's going to help me solve for x, because once we have x, we'll just plug in to the other sides. So I'm going to divide by root 3 on both sides to get x by itself. So root 3 divided by root 3 is 1, so it cancels. And the same thing on the left. Root 3 divided by root 3 is 1, so it cancels. So x is just 5. So that means we can plug in everywhere we see an x, we can put a 5. So that means that the short leg, which is just x, is 5. And the long leg is 2 times 5, or 10. Or sorry, not the long leg, the hypotenuse. I misspoke. So our short leg was 5. The long leg is what was given to us, 5 root 3. And the hypotenuse was 10. All right. One more. And then I'll give you guys one to try on your own. So same thing, I'm going to start by just labeling the different pieces of my triangle. So across from 30 is x. Across from 90 is 2x. So my missing angle is 60 degrees. So across from 60 is x root 3. So since I have a number on my x root 3 side, I'm going to set them equal to each other. So 12 equals x root 3. And now the goal is just to solve for x, because once we solve for x, we can just plug into the other sides. So to solve for x, I'm going to divide by root 3 on both sides to get x by itself. So root 3 divided by root 3 divides to 1, and it cancels. So x equals 12 over root 3. But we say we can't leave the answer like that. That would be improper, so we have to do the rationalization process. So we're going to fix that form. So we're going to multiply by root 3 over root 3 to get 12 root 3 over root 9. So just multiply across the top to get 12 root 3, multiply across the bottom to get root 9. And then you say, well, what is the square root of 9? That's 3. So my top is still 12 root 3, and the bottom is now 3. And then you say, well, is 12 divisible by 3? Because those are my two numbers that are outside. Yes, and 12 divided by 3 is 4, so 4 root 3. And all of that was still equal to x. So my x is still equal to 4 root 3. So now we can just plug in 4 root 3 everywhere we see an x. So our short leg is 4 root 3 because that's just x. And the hypotenuse is 2 times 4 root 3, which is 8 root 3. Because remember, when you multiply with radicals, the things outside multiply and stay outside, things inside multiply and stay inside. So that's why only the 2 multiplies by the 4 to get 8 root 3. So the short leg is 4 root 3, the long leg was 12, and the hypotenuse is 8 root 3. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 2 to try on your own on here. So just find some blank space. I think maybe on the front, if you go back to maybe just like right here, we can just make some little blank, use that blank space over there to do 2 little triangle problems, and then I'll give you guys your practice. So let's see. Let's do... Okay, you guys try these 2 problems, and then we'll check them together, and then we'll move on to practice. So start by just labeling your triangle and put your x, 2x, and x root 3 in the picture. side's x, and for this side it's going to be x.
This one's your hand.
So for this one, since 7 is on that long leg, and the long leg is extra 3, do 7 is extra 3, and then go for x. Okay, yeah, so you're right that this is your extra 3 side, but actually the only thing that was on the side is 7. So we just want to add a root 3 to it, because that changes the number. So instead you say, well, since 7 is on the extra 3 side, 7 is and so now we have an equation, so we can solve for x. Because once we solve for x, that's going to be 2 times that will be here, and then x will be here. So since 7 was on the x root 3 side, try solving that equation for x by dividing by root 3. Right, so that's the x root 3 side. Well, we can't add our root 3 to 7, so that changes the number there. But since on the x root 3 side, we say 7 equals x root 3. Yeah, so it equals x root 3. See, so now you have an equation. So now you can solve for x. Because what dash x here, right? And that.
Is that the place where they do a lot of
So
bad
solve
stuff?
this equation for x. So it's
You got
already
the
right
roll
here.
range for this. Coach right next to it.
What do I do? The country is
The coach for the.
Oh, that's good. That's your x now.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
This is open my X.
Okay, then here's
I
your
don't
x.
know how
This,
to
it looks a
see
little
the
funky, right? But that's okay.
Okay, wait, so this one's right?
Let's see. So on this one, you're right that this one is on the x root 3 side. But we can't add a root 3 to the on that new value of that value. So instead you say, okay, well since this is the x root 3 side, and that's what 7 is, 7 equals x. So then we solve for that x. So now we're going to divide by root 3 on the side, and solve for that x.
I go to this one.
Yeah, like good.
It's horrible.
Right.
I don't know what this.
Is it like this problem? Let's see.
To take another next
So
year.
you've got to.
Better than Kent.
Oh, so this one, so on this side, so you write out that's your x side, so that would be root 5. So root 5 is your x.
For not removing.
So we can just plug in root 5 for x. So this is the x side, right? And the number that was on that side was the square root of 5. And so that means that square root of 5 equals x. So now, wherever we see an x, we're just going to plug in the square root of 5.
You can get like stuff for you.
Although not just 5, but the square root of 5, which is square root of 5 times square root of 3, which is the square root of 6. Because the numbers that are inside the bracket will multiply together in the same side.
And they'll do it in like less than 4 hours.
Yeah, so square root of 5 is that we're looking for x.
And then it would be 2 square root of 5.
These football coaches.
Now what?
So that's it. So this is your hypotenuse.
That's all?
And then root 15 is your long leg.
Miss Dana, my dream was right. It's like one box.
That's your x. No, the game equals is one
So it's just
side, one
7.
side.
It was already zero.
It's over 3. So you just have a useful fraction. So you're good.
Is that okay to get fraction?
That's okay.
Wait, so what is the answer?
Is that 7 root 3 divided by 3?
And not smaller.
That's your x. So that's your side of cost.
So that's gonna go right there. And then that'll work.
Then you'll multiply times 2.
Which is where you do.
Well, inside multiplies with inside and outside with outside. So the 2 is outside.
So it's gonna be
Multiplied
multiplied
by
by
the 7.
7. So it'd be 14.
Okay.
And then that just stays. 7.
Um, you'll have, so 2 times that, 2 times 7 root 3.
That's for that one.
Yeah, so that's for that one.
And then that one's just root.
Oh, and then this one is looking over x.
That one's just 7 root 3 over 3, and that one stays 7.
It was supposed to be.
Yeah. So which side are you on?
We're winning at least 3 games. Same.
Yeah, because it's across from 60, so it's on the x root 3 side. So since it's on the x root 3 side, it equals, and then across from 30 is x. So now it would be 7 equals x.
So that's the square root. So that's different.
Yeah, that's
Square root.
so you want to solve that equation for x.
So you do 7 equals square root.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just divide the 3 by 3. So you get x
Yeah,
by
so
6.
divide by root 3 on the side.
Then you get a fraction, which is when you have to do like the multiplying it, not just the square root.
Right, root 3. You have to divide by what we're multiplying by. So x.
Play linebacker. Play linebacker.
But instead of your calculator.
No, 7 can't equal to the root.
Lazy man.
And that's when we do the rationalizing process.
Short of 7 is 3. And then you have 5.
How tall is it?
7.
And then you're getting a fraction, and then like fractions.
If we were to divide.
He's not playing
Yeah, so
linebacker
3 times 3
here.
would give you 9, and then the square
He'll
root.
probably feel like receiver.
So that's your x. So instead of fraction, that's yeah, so that's your x. So that's inside.
Oh, look right here.
So this is 2 times x. So since this is x, 2 times this is over there. 14 over 3. No, because this goes trapped inside. So numbers trapped inside, but it's on the bottom.
No, because that's when you
And then this guy's on the bottom. Let's see. When he comes back. Okay, guys, so these were tricky problems that I gave you. Hopefully the first thing that you did is mark which side is which. So on this first one, the root 5 is your x side. The top is your x root 3 side. And this is the hypotenuse, that's 2x. So whatever number that you're given, you set it equal to what's on that side. So on this one, root 5 is equal to x because it's on the x side. So since I already have my x, now I'm just going to plug in. Wherever I see x, I'm going to plug in a root 5. So right here, 2 times root 5, which is just 2 root 5. And up here, root 5 times root 3, because I'm plugging in for that x. And then remember, when you multiply with radicals, if both of the things are trapped inside a radical, they get to multiply together. So since the 5 is trapped and the 3 is trapped, they get to multiply together and be trapped together as root 15. So that side was root 15, the hypotenuse is 2 root 5, and then the side we were given is root 5. Okay, questions on that one? It's a little tricky. All right. Okay, so for this one, again, you just want to start by labeling your sides. So across from 30 is your x. Across from your right angle is your 2x. Across from 60 is your x root 3. So since my number 7 is on the x root 3 side, 7 is equal to x root 3. Because whatever that number is, it's equal to which side it's on. So 7 equals x root 3. So the goal is to solve for x so that we can then just plug in wherever we see an x. So divide by root 3 on both sides. So on the right, root 3 divided by root 3 cancels to 1. So x equals 7 over root 3. So that's my x. It's just not in the right form yet because the radical's in the bottom. So So we're going to rationalize and multiply by root 3 over root 3. She gets 7 root 3 over root 9. And then what is the square root of 9? 3. So 7 root 3 over 3. Okay, so all of that is still equal to x. So that is my x. So everywhere that I see x, I'm going to plug in 7 root 3 over 3. So this side is 7 root 3 over 3 because that's x. And this was 2 times 7 root 3 over 3. So it's the 2 and the 7 that get to multiply to 14. So 14 root 3 over 3 is what the hypotenuse is. The 2 doesn't multiply with the root 3 because, again, the root 3 is trapped. And so trapped things don't get to multiply with things that are not trapped. So this one's kind of funky because you end up with fractions, but that's okay. It can be a fraction. That's all right. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to pass out your